We got Billy coming up to the stage. Calvin's next. So Billy, let's give a round of applause to Billy. Warm welcome.
Billy! Clear the room.
Right, the drummer's got jokes. Any Bay Area sports fans here? A hell of a decade for Bay Area sports. Golden State Warriors just won their third NBA championship this decade. San Francisco Giants won 3 World Series this decade. Even the San Francisco 49ers and San Jose Sharks have made their league championships. And the Raiders are leaving. All right. So I want to tell you about the first time I got hit by a car. I was 7 years old. I was living in Mexico, and I know what you're thinking. What the hell are you doing in Mexico? Your name is Billy. You're light-skinned, and you're over 5 feet tall. Well, turns out I'm first-generation Mexican, born here in the United States. And at the time I was living in Mexico, it was just my mom and I in the house. My brothers and my dad were up in the city running errands, and my mom was making lunch, and she was out of tortillas. And did you notice how I said that? Tortillas. That's how Mexican I am. I don't say tortillas. I don't say tortillas. So my mom was out of tortillas, and she asked me to go to the corner store to get them. And I wasn't too worried because I'd done this crossing across the street by myself. But I'd done it. No, actually, I hadn't crossed the street by myself. I'd done it with my brother. So I was a little nervous, but I was 7 years old. I was a grown man. I knew exactly what to do. I knew how the world worked. So I took my mom's money. I went to the corner. I looked at the street. And now, granted you, this is 1980 small town Mexico. This wasn't exactly crossing a major interstate, during rush hour. But like I said, I hadn't done this crossing by myself. My brother had helped me, so I was a little nervous. But I was 7 years old. I was a man. So I get there, and it was easy. It was really easy. All I had to do was just look at how much space I had. I deduced that I had enough space to go, and I took off. I took off like Speedy Gonzales. And I want to talk about Speedy Gonzales because everyone else gets cartoon characters that are superheroes and billionaires and superhero billionaires. And we get Chicharron Charlie over here, who is probably a fugitive, otherwise why else is he running from everything? And of course it can't just be him. The creators gave him a lazy, junky cousin named Slowpoke Rodriguez. Look it up. And you know he's on the stuff. I don't know what the stuff is, but he's on the stuff. And in one episode it's real that he's carrying a gun, okay? So I took off like the Roadrunner, and I was halfway across the street, and everything seemed too easy. 7 years old, I had figured out the world, how it worked. And I was halfway across the street, and a thought popped in my head. And that thought was, this is a 2-lane road, and I'm gonna get hit by a truck in one of these lanes, hopefully just one of these lanes. So I knew I wasn't gonna make it all the way across the street. I knew probably I wasn't gonna make it back to where I started, but I decided to try to get back to where I started, the same side of the street. I panicked, I froze, and then I just saw a golden Chevy bow tie logo just get bigger and bigger and bigger until everything went black. So when my hearing and vision returned, I ascertained, that's how smart I was, I knew words like ascertain, that I had gotten hit by a truck but not run over. There was some commotion, people from the neighborhood, they came out and attended to me, they pulled me from under the truck. And then once they realized that I wasn't leaking any brains or I had an extra elbow, they all just went home. That was it. 7-year-old boy gets hit by a truck, actually, 7-year-old man gets hit by a truck. And that was it. And to this day, it ticks me off because I have an uncle who's a doctor in Mexico. He was a doctor in Mexico back then. And I know for a fact that at that point, again, this is a small town, 1980s Mexico, I know for a fact that medical treatment and diagnosis in Mexico had already progressed past the point of, well, I'm not even sure they pulled me out from under the truck. For my safety, I think they pulled me out from under the truck so I wouldn't dent the guy's oil pan when he drove off. Look, I said, 7 years old, grown man, I know how to read, I know how to count. I certainly could have gone toe-to-toe with someone on a couple of rounds of how many fingers am I holding up, that's all I'm saying. So by this point, I just got hit by a truck. I did not have any tortillas, and I was in no mood to try to cross this street again. So I went home. And I knew that I couldn't walk into the kitchen looking like I did and tell my mom that her baby boy had just gotten hit by a truck. So I told her that the neighbor's dog got loose and chased me, and I fell. And this is a convenient excuse because this had happened many times before. This dog was, kind of vicious. Never really bit, but it chased. So I get to the house, I get into the kitchen. My mom sees me, does the automatic default mom gasp. And I tell her what happened. And I said, oh, the neighbor's dog got out, chased me, I tripped and I fell. And she accepted that answer. But she also rolled her eyes and shook her head, which was a look that I was going to become very familiar with over the course of the next couple decades. And, and that was it. She went back to making lunch, and then I went to go sit at the kitchen table. A few minutes later, I hear a knock at the door. And I look over, and my mom had answered the door, and it's the neighbor lady, right? I didn't pay too much attention until I realized that the conversation was really short. I don't know if any of you have any Mexican mothers with Mexican neighbors, but those conversations tend to not follow any sort of economy of time. So because it was a short conversation, I was interested in what my mom was talking about. So after they were done, I asked my mom, oh, what was that about? And she says, oh, that was the neighbor. That was the neighbors. They already driving off to go away for the weekend. But they stopped and decided to ask us to watch the house while we're gone, while they're gone. They're going to be gone for 3 days, and they want us to watch the house. So that's it. So I didn't think too much of it. My mom went back to the kitchen, and right as she turned the corner, almost out of view, she stops, turns to me, looks, and says, oh, and they're taking the dog. Go get tortillas.